Welcome to Alpha Bites, where we serve up bite-sized insights to help you grow your business and your bank account. Our host, Alex Zinni, CEO of Alpha Key Digital, dives into the latest marketing trends, proven strategies, and actionable tips to scale your online presence. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, Alpha Bites delivers the keys to unlocking your success. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alex Zinni, host of Alpha Bites podcast, where I sit down with business leaders and entrepreneurs to learn more about what makes them tick and to learn from their successes. Past guests include Dr. John Paul Stevens, Dr. Martina Moore, Dr. David Gutman, and Dr. Kara Ogren of Synergy Physical Therapy. We are in our first season, so stay tuned for more great guests. But first, this episode is brought to you by Alpha Key Digital. Located in the vibrant heart of Northeast Ohio, Alpha Key Digital delivers revenue-generating digital marketing solutions tailored to plastic surgeons, dermatologists, mental health, and any private practice looking to grow their patient base. From cutting-edge SEO and social media strategies to high-performing websites and pay-per-click campaigns, our expert team is committed to delivering measurable results that can really elevate your brand. So if you want to unlock your business's full potential, please visit our website at alphakeydigital.com to book an introductory call with Madison Hewitt on our team. So before we start today, I want to give a quick shout out to the Willoughby Western Lake County Chamber of Commerce. They are an organization here in Northeast Ohio that really delivers amazing networking for entrepreneurs. And we're going to have the CEO of that chamber on our podcast soon. So stay tuned for that. So today's guest is Michael Barbarita. Michael has owned and operated retail, manufacturing, and service companies over the last 30 years. One of the retail companies he operated, called Ski Town USA, grew from 2.5 million to 8 million in less than 5 years. That's huge growth. One of the products he manufactured was cookies to scoop frozen cookie dough. And he was featured on QVC Home Shopping Network, and he was selected as one of the top 20 products in the state of Massachusetts in 1997. Now, I met Michael when he interviewed me for his book, and he did a cold email. And I get so many cold emails, but his was really, really compelling. So with that, I knew that he had amazing things to offer. And we had spoken several times through then, and I'm really glad to have him here. So welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you very much, Alex. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So let's just dive right in. Tell me about how you got started.
Okay, well, I have to first say that back in 1999, I just sold my second business successfully. My first business sold for multiple seven figures. And I felt at that point in time that I could do no wrong. And after owning and exiting two successful businesses, I thought I had the keys to the business kingdom, and that I could succeed at any business. So in all of this glory, I started an outpatient rehabilitation facility called Freedom Therapy Center. Now, in all the successful businesses I owned, I always implemented business and financial strategies that my competition wasn't doing. For example, my first business was a ski specialty retail chain, as you mentioned, called Ski Town USA. We grew the company from 2.5 million to 8 million in 5 years. And a contributing factor to that growth was a strategy called a risk reversal, where the seller in the transaction takes most or all the risk. And one of the problems that the customer had in the ski industry is they really never knew if the ski they were being sold was the right ski for them until they got it up on the mountain and tried it. So we implemented what we call the ski guarantee. Ski the ski 3 times, you don't like it, bring it back for a brand new pair and keep bringing it back until we get it right. Now, just so you know, if you didn't imagine it already, when a pair of skis gets skied on, it depreciates substantially. So my employees and managers thought I was out of my mind, because they had visions of thousands of pair of skis coming back from the field and having to deal with all those skis coming back, extra work involved, and of course the company losing money. But my mindset was a little different. First of all, I knew my competition wouldn't do it, and all the customer really wanted was a great ski experience. And we sold 8,000 pair of skis the first year we implemented this strategy, a 25% increase from the previous year. Only 8 came back. Next year, we sold 11,000 pair and 14 came back.
Wow.
Now, fast forward to Freedom Therapy Center, where I must have taken stupid pills or something, because I did exactly what my competition was doing. One of the things that my competition was doing that I did was marketing to doctors to get referrals, dropping off chocolate cakes as bribes to front office staffs to get to the doctors. I offered the exact same protocols as my competition was doing, with no risk reversals, no compelling offers, no strategic direction, no creativity, and no differentiation. And I'm a financial guy, so I know how to manage cash flow. Oh, God. We were hemorrhaging cash. Every single month, I was going into my savings to fund the operating losses we were having. Mm-hmm. And then you know how we business owners from time to time make promises to ourselves? Well, I promised myself that I wouldn't put any more money from the into the company bank account from my savings to fund operating losses. Well, I broke that promise twice. And, thank God I wasn't married. I'd be under the pressure of being told to get a real job. I was staying up nights wondering what I was doing wrong. There was many Wednesdays. There was no money in the company bank account and a payroll due on Friday. I was waking up in the middle of the night with cold sweats. Employees were leaving. They saw a sinking ship. Vendors were calling left and right. There was personal liability galore. And then it all ended. And, I fell on my face. And so my ego was shot. That guy who held the keys to the business kingdom, remember him? I felt completely defeated. But I did learn two things. I learned that after one falls on their face, the hardest step to take is the step after the fall, the next step. And so 30 days after I closed Freedom Therapy Center, Next Step CFO was born. And the second thing I learned, Alex, is that you just can't keep doing what your competition is doing. And you can't keep messaging the same way that your competition is messaging, with great service, high quality, and lowest price. And so that's basically my story. And, I had success at the beginning. I didn't follow up with that success. I failed miserably at Freedom Therapy Center. And it's because I did the same thing as my competition was doing. Mm-hmm. And when I make the comparisons between Ski Town, Cookies to Scoop, Next Step CFO, that's what I saw. Mm-hmm. Just kept doing what my competition was doing.
Yeah, you kind of you blend it into that sea of sameness, right? And then, you don't get the new results, and you're a creative person. So, maybe a little bit of what do you think? Do you think some of that caused a little humility and made you go a different way?
Oh, boy. Oh, God. I thought I was on top of the world. Uh-huh. And then the world came crashing down when, I bombed. Mm-hmm. And it's not a good feeling. And, there's liabilities to pay off. There's all kinds of phone calls, and you have to deal with all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was very fortunate that I got off my feet pretty fast, and paid off all the liabilities and just started Next Step CFO, which is what I've done for the last 17 years. Is it 17? Whatever it is, and it's the longest I've ever owned a business. Yeah, by far.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, that was part of what got you to where you are today. And it kind of, we spoke before about this thing that you've created called the conversion formula. Right. And why don't you tell the people how you came up with it and what it is?
Excellent. Yeah. So, when we were doing research, my co-author and I were doing research for our book, Powerful Business Strategies. We one of the things that we discovered, and we weren't satisfied until we went all the way back to 1931, where I forgot the guy's name, but he brought up that the way marketing should work is that you have to get into the mind of the prospect. So you have to get into the prospect's mind. And so we took that premise, and we're not mind readers as business owners, or anybody for that matter. And so we took that premise and we said, how do we get into the mind of the customer? How do you get into the mind of the prospect? And so we believe that it's based on two emotional issues. And it's based on, because people buy based on emotion and back up that emotion logically. And so those two emotional issues, as number one, the problem they have they don't want, and two, the solution they're looking for that they can't find. And so we created and developed what we call the conversion formula. And the thing about the conversion formula is it's a 4-step process that allows you to get into the mind of the prospect at just the right time, as if you were in the prospect's mind. And the formula needs to be followed in the exact order as I state, otherwise it doesn't work. And I can cite a few examples that when people start in the middle of the formula, because it's very common to do so. And I'll explain that in a minute when I explain the formula. But the first step of the conversion formula is what we call the captivate. And the captivate is a headline. It should be the first thing that comes out of the marketer's mouth, or a headline on text, and it identifies the problem that the customer has and doesn't want. The second step is fascinate. And that is a subheadline that talks about the solution that they can't find. And we have a special name for those first two components of the conversion formula. We call it the position of market dominance. And the reason why we have a special name for it is because, number one, it has to be the first two things. It has to be the first two steps. And if you miss it, if you don't get it right, the rest of the formula falls apart. So the third step of the formula is educate. Now that we have captivated and fascinated the prospects, interrupted or engaged them, we now have a little bit more time to go into a little bit more detail on how we go about solving that problem. And then finally, we hit them with an offer that needs to be so compelling that the customers can't say no. Now, the reason why the conversion formula is so effective is because it addresses the way people buy, because people buy based on emotion and back up that emotion logically. So if we take the captivate and the fascinate, those are the emotional triggers, the problem and the solution. And then the educate is the logical solution on how we go about solving that problem. So if a spouse was telling another spouse on why they bought something, they would focus on the educate because it's the logical component. And so what's interesting about the formula is that a lot of people start with the educate because they don't feel that the general public understands enough about what they do. And when you start with the educate, it becomes very egotistical and it becomes very one-sided. It's all about you, all about you. And that's not the way the conversion formula is set up. The conversion formula is set up so that we hit the emotional chords, and then we back it up logically, and then we hit them with an offer. And so, without leaving the audience hanging, because I said you have to hit them with an offer that's so compelling that the prospect can't say no. I can't just leave it there. I've got to go through what I feel are the 5 components of a compelling offer. And each of these components you can do one or more of these at the same time. You're not restricted to just one at a time. And so the first component of a compelling offer is scarcity and urgency. Well, what does that mean? Well, scarcity is there's only 5 left, or we only have 5 spots, or there's only 3 spots, whatever it is that you want to invoke some urgency to the sale. And the other is urgency. So urgency means the sale ends on Friday. This offer ends on Tuesday. This offer ends on the 31st. Whatever the time frame is, at least put a time frame on it so that there's some urgency. So urgency and scarcity is one. The second one is risk reversal. So like we did at Ski Town, right? The ski guarantee, where the seller in the transaction takes most or all the risk. Normally, people aren't out there to pull one over on you. They like in the ski business, they just wanted a good ski experience. That's all they wanted. They weren't going to, They weren't going to come back intentionally or keep coming back and get new pair of skis every 15 minutes or anything like that. It was, you have to have a little faith in mankind, and you can have a nice risk reversal. Because the interesting thing about the risk reversal that we did at Ski Town, Alex, was that if a customer came back to me and said these skis aren't working right, we'd give them a brand new pair. All right. Anyway, so if they came back and said that they were disappointed, we'd give them a brand new pair, no questions asked. So what I said, we do it anyway. Why don't we just put it in our offer and make our offer more compelling? Right? We're doing it anyway. So that's a risk reversal. The third component is adding more value to your product or service. Okay, so when I was in the frozen cookie dough business, the problem that the customer had was that they didn't want to waste valuable oven space baking cookies. It just was, if they were a pizza parlor, they wanted their ovens full of pizza. They didn't want some cookies in there. Plus, the temperatures vary. Like pizza is 700 degrees and cookies is like 350. So what we did, and the key here is that we understood the long-term value of a customer. Because what we did is we took a loss up front because we gave them a free convection oven that they could bake the cookies in.
Wow.
So, and that was like a $200 or $300 investment. And their opening order was normally like a sub shop or a deli or something, was normally about $50 to $100. But because we understood the long-term value of our customer and we believed in our product, that's part of it. We knew that the customer would reorder and and more than pay for the value of the oven. But the oven added more value to the cookie dough. And so that's why that was a compelling offer to those business owners. And then the fourth thing is packaging and bundling. It's funny, like in the ski business, packaging and bundling is commonplace. At least it is for ski equipment. You buy ski equipment, it's always like in a package, skis, bindings, poles. But what we did is we took the most popular ski brands and ski cosmetics that were on the skis, the coloration, the graphics. And what we did is we went back to the clothing department and we put together clothing packages that matched those skis, those popular brands. And after we sold the skis, we were able to walk the customer to the clothing department and say, look at these packages, which is the perception of value that we prepared for you that go along with the skis that you bought.
Amazing.
And those packages were parka, pant, sweater, and hat.
Wow.
And some of them went as low as $99.95.
My goodness.
But this was back in the day. But but still that was a deal. So packaging and bundling is that perception of value. So you can package and bundle things together. And then the fifth component is being indifferent to the outcome.
Interesting.
Yeah, because if you sound like a used car salesperson, that the prospect's going to think that you're all for yourself and not really have their interests in mind. So you need to be detached to the outcome, completely detached to it. That way, the customer won't have any of these second thoughts about you just wanting to make a sale. So that detachment to the outcome is very compelling, because what it does is it allows you to lock arms with the prospect on the same side of the table.
Interesting.
So those are the five components: your urgency and scarcity, your risk reversal, adding more value to your product or service, packaging and bundling, and being indifferent.
And all of that, when you say that, Michael, I can already hear the pens and the pencils of people writing notes as you're talking. But all of it is common sense, and we've all experienced it. But just that little, just the little change of putting into your offer, return the skis, which I think you said only 14 people did out of 11,000 pairs sold.
Right.
That's such a small amount. And then to just walk them over and say, here's a bundle of clothes. I mean, it's so basic, it's common sense, but people don't do it,
Right.
They just
right?
don't, and it really helps.
And that was the thing at Ski Town that helped the growth because we were implementing business and financial strategies that the competition wasn't doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's what I believe wholeheartedly that business owners need to do. That's what this book, Powerful Business Strategies, is about. And that's what business owners need to do to get that edge.
Yeah.
We all need that edge over our competitors.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we blend in.
Mm-hmm. And I think I've probably seen all five of those components in a single offer. I think I've seen a scarcity, a timer, and all and
Right.
bundling. But the indifference there at the end. How do you coach someone to become indifferent to the outcome?
Well, one of the ways is it depends what you're selling, okay? But one way is if you have a particular product, okay, a service. Let's say it's a service, and let's say there are three, there are a couple of things, maybe up to 5 or 6 things that you could point out that would be valuable for that person to have, okay, along with that service.
Mm-hmm.
Or it doesn't have to be added value, but it has to be let's say 5 things, couple of 3 to 5 things that the perception of the prospect is that those things are very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the way you would do that is say something like, whether you work with me or someone else, there are 5 steps that you must take in order to properly implement business strategy, if that's the service. In order to properly implement CFO services, if that's the service. In order to properly implement marketing messaging, if that's the service.
Mm-hmm.
Or digital marketing, if that's the service. 3, 4, 5 things, if you can identify that are musts, and you make sure that you say, whether you work with me or someone else, you must take these 5 steps. Whoever's doing it must take these 5 steps in order to properly implement this particular, whatever that service is. Otherwise, it won't work. And you'd be very adamant about the fact that it won't work. And by mentioning that, you're showing the prospect that, first of all, you're detached from the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you're also showing them that these are critical steps, and they usually agree that they are critical steps.
Mm-hmm.
Because other gurus will say something else.
Of course.
You're 1 funnel away or something, right? For your industry,
Mm-hmm.
right? They'll say those types of things, but it's these. But are they taking these steps to get you to where you want to go?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You see how I did that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. No, great advice there. So I know your current company, Next Step CFO, you have what's called a 7-step pathway to profit.
Yes,
formula.
that's right. Yep.
So tell the listeners about that.
Okay. So it's funny because it started with the 80-20 rule, where a lot of business owners, and by the way, no one's ever wrong about the 80-20 rule. So I'm not, but the general thought process behind the 80-20 rule as it relates to business is that 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your customers. Mm-hmm. By the way, that's right. That's absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
But what we did, we looked at that 80-20 rule and we said, what's the 20% of activities that drives 80% of the revenue? Mm-hmm. What's 20% of the activities that drives 80% of the revenue? And we came up with 7 steps. That if you do these steps, you'll not only produce more time freedom because you're leveraging your revenue, but you'll also be maximizing your opportunity. Because by implementing this 20% of activity, you're generating 80% of the volume. Mm-hmm. And so it starts with leads. You got to have high quality leads or the right lead. Second, and you have to work on it. That takes work, right? Mm-hmm. Second is conversions. And what I mean by conversions is not conversions to closing, but conversions into the sales process, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it could be a meeting, a presentation. It could be, where somebody's just giving a webinar, giving some information, whatever that is. The third step is closing rates.
Mm-hmm.
Got to know how are you converting? What are you converting from your sales process? What percentage? The fourth one is highly neglected by we business owners, and that is client retention.
Mm-hmm.
We don't work on that enough. And the reason is we're a complacent species. Once we get a client, we think we get to keep them by default. It's just a human nature kind of thing. But you actually have to work on client retention. And while you're working on client retention, you'll also work on another step that I'll talk about in a moment. The next step, the fifth step, is average dollar per sale. So you want to always look and work on increasing your average dollar per sale per customer. Because I'll tell you, Alex, in our research for our book, we found that 34% of the time, somebody will buy something else from you at the point of sale of the original product if it's presented.
Right.
A lot of people don't present that second product, that second opportunity, that second service.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, they're missing out 34% of the time, they're missing out on an additional average dollar sale.
Mm-hmm.
And then frequency of sale. How many times can we get customers to buy?
Mm-hmm.
That's the sixth. And then the seventh is we do need to focus on our costs, both variable costs and fixed costs. So that was leads, conversions, closing rates, client retention, average dollars per sale, frequency of sale, and costs. So that is and that's what we say is the 20% that drives 80% of the revenue. You work on these 7 items, you will drive 80% of your revenue. And the interesting thing about this is it has a compounding effect. And what do I mean by that? If you increase your conversions and increase your client retention, it has a compound effect on profit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you were able to increase, and this is unrealistic, I understand, but if you were able to increase all 7 areas, the compounding that takes place is phenomenal.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right. So, of how much more business that you would get, your revenues go up to the moon and your profits do too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the 7-step pathway to profit formula. That's in our book as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And for, just as a quick side, for those who are interested in your book, Michael, where can they purchase it or listen to it?
Okay. Yep. And by the way, we give it away totally free. You don't even need an email address. If you go to nextstepcfo.net and just scroll to the bottom of the homepage, you'll see a link there that you can download the book.
Beautiful.
It's our contribution to the business community.
Wonderful. So I want to move on to a different question too. I've heard you say hope so marketing.
Right.
So what is it? What is that I hope so marketing?
Okay. This is what we found in our research that 90 to 95% of marketers are using as their lead. So they're not identifying the problem the customer has,
mm-hmm.
which is the emotional trigger of the conversion formula. What they're doing is they're saying largest selection, lowest prices, best service, most professional. We're honest. We're the fastest. We're the highest quality. We're the largest in the state. We've been in business for 400 years. That is jargon. That is what I call I hope so marketing. And the reason why I call it I hope so marketing is that when you say most professional, the client says, I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't go somewhere where there are unprofessional people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you say you're honest, well, I hope so. I wouldn't do business with a criminal.
Uh-huh.
I mean, to be honest with you, the Boston Strangler thought he was honest. So it's like when people brag about being honest,
right?
It's like, what are they doing?
Yeah, trust me, I'm honest. I swear.
Right? Really? I hope so.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So that's how we get to I hope so marketing.
Yeah, no, that makes so sense. And that is totally not a strategy, by the way. That's being complacent. That's that complacency you talk about. And a lot of people are there and they have to break out of that. But I want to talk about uncertainty. And a lot of people would say that we're in uncertain times right now for many reasons, right? We're moving, AI is going crazy and we're moving into a new administration and there's issues in the world and, nobody knows where we're going. It feels like it sometimes, although I'm more on the optimistic side, but What are some steps business owners can take in these uncertain times to really do well?
Great question, Alex. Thank you for asking. So I have 7 actions um, that I think successful business owners have taken in uncertain times. And this is also in an economic downturn, but also in the uncertainty that you stated, the uncertainty in the world. So number one, first and foremost, is the ability to adapt and to be flexible to change. You see, most business owners are resistant to change, therefore don't adapt, and that's why so few thrive in uncertain times.
Mm-hmm.
It's the ability to adapt to changes in the way it look. There is a way when you're going from, and I'm just throwing out numbers, but when you're going from 0 to a $500,000 in sales, you have to adapt and be prepared to change if you want to get over that $500,000 level to $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
It requires a different mindset and it requires adaptability. So that's why it's the number one factor, the number one action that successful business owners need to take in uncertain times. The second one is you really have to define your personal goal. That this is your number one goal, your personal goal. And I know the business drives that potentially in most cases. But what is your number one goal? Now, what most business owners land on, first of all, if you ask somebody what their number one goal is, the first answer is never the answer. It's like, I want to do $1 million in sales.
Mm-hmm.
Or, and you ask them what their number one personal goal is. Well, I got to do $1 million in sales. Okay. If you do $1 million in sales, what would that do for you? And so you keep drilling down and you do this with yourself. You keep drilling down and see where you land. Mm-hmm. The most common places that business owners land is one of 3 things: time freedom, consistent profits, and building a legacy. One or more of those 3 things is where business owners land when it comes to their number one goal. But you need to define it. You need to define it because your decisions are going to depend on it. And the third step is you need to also come up now with your business goals. And you should start with net profit first, then revenue goals. People usually start at the top and go down. You really should start at the bottom, because if you want another manager, you need more profit. If you want to take more take-home pay, you need more profit, right? It's not necessarily more sales, although that obviously drives the profit, but you need more profit. Mm-hmm. So you have to focus on profit. So that's the third. The fourth is you have to have a visionary mindset. And as I mentioned, your mindset from 0 to 500,000 is totally different from 500,000 to $1 million, and $1 million to $2 million, $2 million to $5 million. Mm-hmm. It's a different mindset. And that's troubling to a lot of business owners. Mm-hmm. I can't do the same things. I can't have the same kind of mindset. No, you can't. You have to hire people. You have to start to think about how you're going to scale to that level and beyond. So having a visionary mindset. Yeah. And then here's the other thing. It's not easy to make visionary decisions in uncertain times.
Absolutely.
Okay. And that is a great trait. You still have to stick with your plan, in uncertain times. And so to make visionary mindsets instead of a mindset where we're making a decision for the next month or the next 2 months, you're going to make your decisions based on, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, that kind of visionary. Mm-hmm. So that's the fourth action. The fifth, well, I'm a CFO, so knowing your numbers is the fifth action. For whatever reason, Alex, people, they're afraid of numbers. They're afraid of looking at them. They're afraid of understanding them. And I can understand that from a lot of perspectives. They can make you nervous, quite frankly. But it's important to know where you stand. And business owners, the successful business owners in uncertain times, at a minimum, know what I call the vital five numbers that you should know.
Mm-hmm.
So those vital five is number one, sales. You should always know what your sales are. Gross profit percent, net profit, and your current cash balance.
Mm-hmm.
If you know those five numbers, you're not there, okay? But you know what? You're a way better off than you are without knowing those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just five numbers. Learn those five numbers. And so, but there's an extension to all this, of course. You still have to understand what your financial statements are telling you. And people, if they don't know what their financial statements are telling them, they should go and get help for that. They should go and get help, because it's very important to understand the three critical financial statements: the P&L, the balance sheet, and the cash flow statement.
Mm-hmm.
And then winning business owners in uncertain times have a business and cash flow forecast. Why? Because they can see visually where they're headed.
Mm-hmm.
And they can see, like, for example, they'll never be surprised by things like income taxes, because the forecast shows you what your profit is projected to be, and therefore you kind of have a feel of what your income taxes are going to be or how to prevent them, which is the great thing about the forecast, because the forecast tells you when it's cloudy, not when it's raining.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very important in uncertain times. And the sixth action is the right business strategy. As I've been talking about, 95% of business strategy used today is identical to your competitors, and it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So having the right business strategy that your competition isn't doing, like having a position of market dominance that we talked about, utilizing the conversion formula, understanding, I hope so, marketing and how to avoid it. Understanding the five components of a compelling offer and the 7-step profit formula are strategies that you can implement that your competition isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Rest assured of that. And so implementing the right strategy. And then finally, think about investments, like assets, amazing people, and automation. I call it the 3 A's.
Mm-hmm.
Think about investing. They're not expenses, they're investments. Investments in assets, amazing people in order to scale, and automation to run efficiently. So those are the 7 actions for successful business owners in uncertain times.
Wow. There was so much there. Powerful Business Strategies is a great name for your book, Michael, because everything that you've talked about so far and how they fit in together in the puzzle of being a business owner and entrepreneur, there's just so much there. If you did 10% of what you said, it could double some people's businesses,
That's right.
especially
Absolutely.
those between the 0 and the 500,000, that early on space. So just implementing 10% of this would probably put them at $1 million. Of course, there's so many other factors, but I do have one last question. But
Sure.
before I ask it, I just want to point people back to your website, which is www.nextstepcfo.net. Make sure you go there. If you scroll down at the bottom of the homepage, like Michael said, you can find a link, download his book, set up a contact, go to the contact form, get in touch with Michael. You are taking on new clients. Is that right, Michael?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So go on there, people. Make sure you check him out. He's got some great ideas, great implementation. The final question here, Michael, is what was one of the best pieces of advice that you have gotten throughout your career?
Let's see. That's a great question. Here it is. You better get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that's what business ownership's all about. And after I was panicking about things that you never would believe in a million years would happen, because that's what happens to we business owners. There's always, when you own a business, there's always things that you would never believe in a million years could happen, whether it's an employee lawsuit of some ridiculous nature, or just the most amazing things I had bought out a small ski shop, and the guy didn't pay his sales taxes, as it turned out. Which you're all protected in the documents for that anything that like that happened. But the state of Massachusetts decided to put pressure on me in order to get that money. Right. And they knew right darn well it wasn't us, but they decided to put pressure on me, and they stopped. They were in the middle of, they threatened to stop an important sale that we had and shut it down. So, I mean, those are things that you never think would happen in a million years. Right. So anyway, but that's the lesson learned. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. It's just the way business is.
Yep.
That's why we're up nights, with cold sweats and everything else, worried about cash flow and customers we might be losing and all that kind of thing. But there's nothing like the success of it. That's the thing.
High risk, high reward.
Right. That's the trigger. That's the carrot.
Yeah.
That's the carrot.
Well, thank you, Michael, so much for your time. We really appreciate it. That's all for today. We've been talking here with Michael Barbarita of Next Step CFO, and it's been an honor to speak with you, and we will see you guys on the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Alpha Bites. If you found today's insights valuable, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with your network. Let's keep the conversation going. Connect with us on social media or visit us at alphakeydigital.com/alphabytes. Remember, the keys to your digital success are just a bite away. See you next time.